Ted and Venus is a 1991 film directed by Bud Cort. This is written by Paul Chiotti and Bud Cort. We also have Bud Cort playing Ted Whitley, and we have Kim Adams as Linda Turner. The cast also includes Rhea Perlman, Woody Harrelson, and also Martin Mull. I actually watched this because I'm trying to watch every feature film that features the main cast of Cheers. And we have a double whammy here with Rhea Perlman and Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson plays a homeless Vietnam vet. He's in it very briefly. Rhea Perlman plays a character called Grace. She's in it a little bit more. And I have to say, I liked them in this. Martin Mull was great. But the film itself wasn't really to my taste. Ted is a poet who falls in love with Linda. And when I say fall in love, I actually mean becomes obsessed with. And the film is basically about him stalking her, begging her to go out with him. And there are a couple of times when Ted is a likable character. There are kind of glimmers of other emotions, but for the most part, his actions are driven by this obsession. And honestly, he's a really unlikable character, even before this obsession started, which to be fair is pretty early on in the film. But even before that, I didn't like him. I really didn't care for him. The performance is really strong, but I hate the character. So it's not a comfortable watch. With regards to the events of the narrative, not a lot happens, to be perfectly honest. It is absolutely driven by the character of Ted, and I don't like the character of Ted, therefore I didn't really like anything that was happening. Towards the end, it maybe got a little bit more interesting as I was curious to find out what would happen, and there are maybe a couple of unpredictable things that happen. I won't say too much about those. But for the bulk of the film, I just found it to be really boring. Boring with a really unlikable protagonist. The performances are fine, music's fine. Other than that, I can't really praise anything about this. It might appeal to some people. If you like Ted as a character, or even if you don't mind him, maybe it's okay. But it's absolutely driven by his character, by his personality and his actions, and the narrative itself is very boring. So unfortunately, I didn't enjoy Ted and Venus, and for the most part, I don't recommend it. It's watchable. It's not one of those films where I was desperate for it to finish. I wasn't hating it. I was kind of hating Ted, but I wasn't necessarily hating the story, but I just didn't really enjoy it. So not one for me. It might appeal to some people, but personally, I don't recommend Ted and Venus.